Welcome to the first of two lectures on the topic of case law, specifically case digests. In this Part A lecture, we're going to give a background to help you understand how digests work. They are very valuable finding tools for cases. That is, they enable you to find cases relating to certain topics. In Part B of the lecture, we'll be looking at specifically how you use digests both in print and on Westlaw. So let's start off now with background to help us understand what digests do. And the first thing we need to review is headnotes. Now, to understand headnotes as they appear in cases published in the case reporters that West Publishing, now Thomson Reuters, publishes, you need to know a little bit about what their editors do behind the scenes. So you will recall that every court opinion sets forth one or more points of law. Now, a point of law is a statement of either a rule of law, either generically by itself, or as the court is applying that rule of law to legally significant facts of the case the court is deciding. Now, points of law commonly will appear in different sections of an opinion. Of course, the rule of law, or R section of the IRAC method of reasoning, is a natural place to find points of law. Also, in the application part of the court's IRAC reasoning pattern, you will find points of law, particularly as they are applied to the specific facts the court is addressing. And then the holding of the case, that is the court's conclusion or direct answer to the issue that it is addressing in the opinion, is also a point of law. Now, sometimes points of law in court opinions are very succinct statements. They might be one simple sentence. At other times, they may be part of extended discussions, particularly when these points of law appear in the application, or A component of the IRAC method of reasoning. So let's look at examples of points of law in a court opinion. And so this first example is a point of law appearing in the Texas Supreme Court case Boyles versus Kerr. Now, I'm going to show you here on the screen what the case would look like in the actual Southwestern Reporter published by West / Thomson Reuters now. And so in this left-hand column, you'll see the text highlighted in red. The court states, "We hold there is no general duty in Texas not to negligently inflict emotional distress. A claimant may recover mental anguish damages only in connection with defendant's breach of some other legal duty." Okay, there's a point of law. And the court, early in this opinion, stated its conclusion or holding up front, and then would later go on to explain and discuss the reasons for that holding. So here we have our first point of law in the opinion. Here's a second example of a point of law from the same Boyles opinion. Later on in the opinion, the court says, "Our holding does not affect the right of bystanders to recover emotional distress damages suffered as a result of witnessing a serious or fatal accident." So here in this red language, in red font, the court is acknowledging that there is, at least to some degree, a right of bystanders to recover emotional distress damages suffered as a result of witnessing a serious or fatal accident. So there we have another point of law. And of course, the opinion will go on and contain others. Now, before West Publishing, or Thomson Reuters now, publishes a new court opinion in a case reporter, the editors will go through the opinion and identify every point of law that it contains. Then the editors will briefly summarize each one of those points of law, usually in one sentence apiece. Then the editors will take all of those summaries of the different points of law and will list them in the order in which those points of law appeared in the opinion. And they will place this list of summarized points of law at the head or before the official text of the court's opinion begins in the finalized version of the opinion that will appear in the court reporter. And so each of these summarized points of law then constitutes a head note because these summarized points are listed at the head or right before the text of the court's actual opinion begins when you see the case in a West published case reporter. So another term for these head notes or summarized points of law appearing at the beginning of a case is a case abstract. A head note is also called an abstract. And when we get to talking about digests, I'm going to shift the vocabulary and talk, instead of referring to these summaries as head notes, I'll be referring to them as abstracts. And sometimes they're called annotations as well. But in the context of a court opinion, as it appears in a West published case reporter, I'm going to refer to these summaries as head notes. So head notes are essentially a snapshot. If you browse through the head notes at the top of the opinion in a case published by West, then you will get a snapshot of all of the points of law stated in the opinion very quickly. And that way, as a researcher, you can quickly determine whether that case may have some relevance to your research. So here on the screen is an example of a head note, and it's actually it's head note number 2 to the Boyles versus Kerr case. But we'll look at that in more detail in a second. So let's go back to the actual Boyles versus Kerr opinion as it would appear in the Southwestern Reporter. Now, in the Southwestern Reporter, the text on each page is divided into 2 columns. And so to see the head notes begin, you scroll past, or you would look past the basic case information at the top of the left-hand column. And it just so happens that in this particular case, the first head note appears at the bottom of the left-hand column. So here it is. So this entire paragraph, including its boldface heading, constitute the head note. And this is the first head note. And West, when it lists head notes at the beginning of a case, will number them consecutively. So this is number 1. Now, to see the second head note on the actual page in the Southwestern Reporter, you would have to go back to the top of the page in the right-hand column where the head notes continue. And so here are head notes number 2 and 3. And as you can see here, head note 2, you can use, it's numbered number 2, and head note 3 is numbered number 3. And the ones that follow will be 4, 5, and 6, and so on. Now later, when we actually get to the court's opinion, after all of the head notes have been set forth, then you will notice that at certain points in the text of the opinion itself, there will appear in square brackets a numeral. And that numeral will correspond to the head note number of one of the head notes. And that signals that at this point in the opinion, the court is about to discuss the point of law that is summarized in the head note that has that head note number. So here's an example of what a head note number would look like within the opinion, so that you'll know that this is where the court's discussion of that particular point of law begins. So Very early on in the Boyle's opinion, we have a paragraph that begins with the bracketed numeral 1. West's editors inserted this bracketed number here to show you that beginning with this paragraph, the court is beginning to discuss the point of law summarized in headnote number 1. And then later in the opinion, you'll finally come to a square bracketed number 2. Again, that's showing you that here is where the court is beginning its discussion of the point of law summarized in headnote number 2, and so forth. So what you can do is, if you see a headnote at the head of the case and you are interested and you want to go right to the opinion where the court begins to discuss it, you just scan the court's text until you find the bracketed number corresponding to the head note you're interested in. That way it saves you the time of having to wade through the entire opinion and to find where the court starts discussing that particular point of law. So those are head notes. And again, they are chiefly the genius of the West Publishing, now Thomson Reuters legal system that has been developed over many, many years. So now that you have a background on what head notes are, I want to talk about how West has organized all of American law. And they call this system the topic and key number system. And then once we have a handle on West's topic and key number system, we can see then how the head notes to cases link up and can be used in a different organized form in a case digest to help researchers find cases on particular topics. So West's topic and key number system is a proprietary system that West developed long ago, and it was a massive undertaking. The reason West originally came up with this system is the simple fact that in case reporters, the cases are organized chronologically. That is, in the order in which the cases were issued or decided. They are not organized by topic, according to what type of law or issue of law they address. Well, when you're a researcher, though, you need to have a way to find cases by topic, so that you need cases that relate to the topic you're researching. And simply having shelves full of books in which cases are published chronologically does not help you. So to meet this need of being able to find cases that address certain topics, West created its unique system of classifying all of the laws in the United States, and this system is called the topic and key number system. In a nutshell, this system involves assembling all the head notes from all the cases that West has published in its case reporters, reorganizing them according to topics and subtopics, and then publishing these reorganized head notes into separate publications called digests. And people who use digests can then simply look up by topic alphabetically, and then more detailed into subtopics, and see all of the head notes from all the different cases from a particular jurisdiction or a particular court that have addressed that topic. And there they'll be able to find the case name, the head note, the citation, and can go then read those other cases. So this is the crux of the idea behind the topic and key number system. Now, to give you a little bit more detail about the system, West has divided all U.S. law into over 400 broad major topics, such as civil rights, damages, pretrial procedure, negligent. Very, very broad topics, over 400 of them. Now, every one of these topics, West further subdivided into specific legal concepts relating to that topic. And depending on the topic, those legal concepts themselves may have been further subdivided into sub-concepts. And then finally, each of the sub-concepts were further subdivided into the smallest, narrowest subdivision called subtopics. And West assigned each subtopic within any given major topic its own identifying key number. And it's represented in the West materials by a symbol resembling a key followed by a number. And so that is a unique identifying number for a particular tiny subtopic within one of the 400 huge topics that West has divided all of American law into. So here is a graphical representation of how West has subdivided the law. There are 400 plus major topics. So let's just say there's one major topic we're focusing on. Well, West editors then looked at all of the legal concepts that relate to that major topic and divided that major topic accordingly into however many legal concepts West editors identified. And then each of those legal concepts itself was further subdivided into narrower legal concepts. And finally, the narrowest subdivision of all is each of the narrower concepts were themselves subdivided into subtopics. And it's these tiny subtopics that receive and are assigned a key number. Now, here is an example of a major topic in West's topic and key number system and how it is subdivided all the way down to subtopics. So here is the major topic, one of the 400 plus major topics. Damages, a hugely broad topic in law. But that's the major topic. That's one of them in West's system. Now, West's editors subdivided this major topic into various legal concepts. And here are some examples of them. Nature and grounds in general of damages, a particular type of damages known as nominal damages, another type of damages known as compensatory damages, another type of damages known as liquidated damages, another type of damages known as exemplary or punitive damages, and then another legal concept involving how you measure damages. That is the amount of money that a plaintiff will recover in a case. And then the amount awarded for damages. Another concept relating to damages is pleading of damages, how a plaintiff in a lawsuit is supposed to assert the right to recover damages and so forth. And there are other legal concepts, but here are 8 of those legal concepts into which West has subdivided the very broad major topic of damages. Okay, well, that's the first subdivision of the major topic. If you go into any one of these legal concepts, it will itself be further subdivided into narrower legal concepts. So let me show you how that works. Let's say that among these legal concepts of the major topic damages, you are most interested in compensatory damages. Though compensatory damages is an amount of money awarded to a plaintiff in a lawsuit to compensate that plaintiff for the harm caused by the defendant. So this is the third legal concept into which damages has been subdivided. So let's zoom in on this and see how this was further subdivided. So here we are, grounds and subjects of compensatory damages. Well, here is how West's editors subdivided this legal concept. Direct or remote, contingent or prospective, that is future, consequences or losses, aggravation, mitigation, and reduction of loss, interest, and expenses of litigation. So here we have four narrower topics into which the legal concept of compensatory damages has been divided. Well, let's say that you're interested in compensatory damages, and of these four narrower concepts, you're particularly interested in the first one, the direct or remote, contingent or prospective consequences or losses. So you then focus in on that one. Well, it turns out that West's editors have in fact subdivided this narrower concept into even narrower concepts themselves. So the first concept is, these types of losses in general. And the second one specifically relates to these direct or remote losses insofar as they regard mental suffering and emotional distress. So let's say that, okay, your interest in research is in fact the mental suffering and emotional distress subdivision of this narrower legal concept. And so in the digest, you will see that finally the mental suffering and emotional distress narrow concept is subdivided into the smallest subdivisions that the digest allows, and that is the subtopic key number. And so there are multiple tiny subtopics under this narrow legal concept of mental suffering and emotional distress. And in the digest's table of contents, you would see that there will be a key symbol to the left of each one of these subtopics. And here in the chart, I have simply put the number symbol or pound sign to the right of each key. But if you were to actually turn into the outline that comes before the major topic in a digest, you would see that each one of those key symbols would be followed by a number. Each number would be different. Normally, they would just be consecutive. And so the mental suffering and emotional distress is divided into a key number subtopic that is just discussing that issue in general. The second one is statutory and constitutional provisions. The third one is law that governs the recovery of these types of damages. The fourth one is the nature of the defendant's conduct in general that would entitle a plaintiff to recover these damages, and so on and so forth. So this, when you get to the key number subtopic stage, you are at the narrowest subdivisions possible of the major topic, and here the major topic was damages. Now, with this information in mind, remember the head notes to the cases that we discussed a few minutes ago. Remember the heading to each one of those summarized points of law. You had about one sentence paragraph, and above it, in boldface font, you had the head note number, and next to that, some additional information. Well, that additional information in the heading to each head note in the case is constitutes two pieces of information regarding that summarized point of law. First, there will be a word or phrase next to the head note number, and that identifies which of the 400 plus major topics the summarized point of law relates to. And that will be a word or a phrase. And then next to it, there will be a key symbol followed by a number. And that is identifying the very narrowest subtopic within that entire huge major topic of, say, damages that the summarized point of law relates to. So you're told, in essence, the major topic and the tiniest subtopic, which is represented by a key number, that that point of law relates to. And that is why West's system here is called the topic and key number system. Topic being the broadest category of law to which that head note relates, and key number regarding the narrowest point of law within that topic that the head note relates to. So let's go back to the head notes from the Boyles versus Kerr opinion and see what this looks like. Here's the first head note that we looked at earlier. It's head note 1 because it's got a numeral 1 at the very far left of the heading. But here we have a word next to the head note number, and it's damages. That's telling you that in West's topic and key number system, this summarized point of law here falls under the major topic damages. And then next to it, you have the key symbol and a number. Well, that's telling you that the smallest subtopic of the major topic damages to which this head note relates is the subtopic assigned the key number 49 under West's system. Now let's look at the head notes number 2 and 3. The head note 2 also has the major topic damages next to it, as does head note number 3. So the first 3 head notes all relate to the major topic damages, but they have different key numbers. Head note 2 has the key number subtopic number 51, whereas head note 3's key number subtopic is 49.10. So they all relate to the same major topic, which is damages, but they each relate to a different small subtopic represented by different key numbers. So that's the topic and key number system. And now that we understand what information we're provided in a head note and how that ties in to West's topic and key number system, now we are set to understand what a case digest is and how you use it. This picture here on this slide is a depiction of 3 volumes of the West's Texas Digest, second series, and it's the digest that pertains to Texas law. And so we'll be looking at that in more detail. So a digest, given what we know about head notes and what we know about the topic and key number system, can be defined as follows. It is a finding tool in which the head notes from West published cases are reorganized and grouped according to their respective major topics and subtopic key numbers and published in this special digest set of volumes so that the researcher can then simply look up the topic alphabetically and find all of the head notes there from all the different cases that have addressed that specific major topic and subtopic key number. And that is the way that you can find other cases on the same topic. And you can imagine that, especially before online legal research, using digest was essential because you could not simply pull up a case online, it was a lot more onerous to find cases when you only had the books, and the digests were an incredible innovation by West to help legal research in print be much more efficient. But these digests also are available now online. And so if you have Westlaw, you will have access to their topic and key number system, which works similarly, but it's just been adapted to the online format, which we'll see in the next lecture, Part B. Now here's a picture of a set of the Texas Digest second series. Uh, they're bright blue, and they look like a big set of encyclopedias because on the outside spine you have the alphabetical major topics that each volume contains. So the hardbound digest volumes, like the picture you just saw, are divided alphabetically according to the 400 plus major topics in West's topic and key number system. So here is a closer picture of the spines of volumes from West's Texas Digest. And you can see here that at the top of each, you have the name of the digest, which is West's Texas Digest, second series. And then each hardbound volume has a volume number, although that's not really significant for your case law research. But below that, you see words that identify which major topic or topics are covered in that volume. Now, at the very bottom of each volume, you'll see it says 1935 to date. That means that this second series of West's Texas Digests only goes back to cases issued beginning 1935 to present. If you wanted to see abstracts from earlier cases, you would have to go back to the first series of West Texas Digest in the books. Now, remember we were talking about the major topic of damages. That was the major topic of the three headnotes we examined from the Boyles versus Kerr case. And I also showed how that particular topic was divided and further subdivided ultimately into subtopic key numbers under that system. Well, let's look at the damages related volumes of the Texas Digest. There are two of them. And you'll notice the first one on the left has the major topic damages listed. But notice that the topic damages is so broad that it needed two volumes to cover it. One book was not sufficient. So underneath the word damages on the spine of the first volume, you are told which key number subtopics that volume covers. And we're told here that this first volume covers subtopic key numbers 1 to 140. If you are interested in key number 141 all the way to the end of the damages major topic, you need to go to the second volume. And so the second volume tells us that it starts with damages, meaning it's a continuation of the topic damages, and that it covers key numbers 141 to the end of damages. But there was room to begin another major topic in that volume, and maybe even some in between. And so if you see more than one major topic listed on a spine, the first one is the major topic with which that volume begins, and the other major topic listed on the spine is the topic with which that particular volume ends. So this second volume in the picture covers, begins with the topic damages, and it goes all the way to the topic death, which is the last topic addressed in that particular volume. Now, when you open any volume of the hardback uh, digest published by West, you will see an alphabetical list of the more than 400 digest major topics. And so here is an example of what the first page of that list would look like. The very first one is abandoned and lost property, and then it just goes alphabetically through other major topics. Now, you'll notice there's a number to the left of each one, which is roughly chronological. Some of them don't have, seem to skip a number periodically. You don't really have to worry about those numbers. Each major topic, West assigns a number, but that's not something you normally have to care about. What you do care about is the word or phrase description of the main topic. So if you'll always be able to see a list of all of the major topics at the beginning of any volume of a West published digest. Now, at the beginning of any major topic in the volume, there will be an outline of sort of a table of contents, if you will, of that particular topic. And we call these topic outlines. And there'll be two outlines. The first one will be a very broad outline that hits the main subdivisions of the major topic. And then it will be followed by a much more detailed outline going all the way down to the individual subtopic key number level. So here is an example of what the broad outline that appears at the very beginning of the major topic damages in the West Texas Digest looks like. So you see here, it gives you the Roman numeraled subdivisions and does go a bit into some detail, but not that much. It's designed to give you the bird's eye view of the entire major topic. And then it will be followed by a much more detailed outline, because the idea is once you've reviewed the bird's eye outline, then you kind of see where you need to be focusing and can zero in on the Roman numeral subdivision and then get to go into much more detail and see things at the individual subtopic key number level. And here's an example on the screen here. Roman numeral 1, it actually lists out the headings for each of the key number subtopics. So you can see here that key number 1 relates to the nature and theory of pecuniary reparation. Fancy way of saying money compensation. Key number 2 is what law governs. Key number 3, that's the subtopic for injuries for which pecuniary reparation can be made, and so forth. So when you know their key numbers, because you have the key symbol up at the top of the list to indicate these are the smallest subtopics, and they just keep going in sequential order throughout the major topic of damages. Now, and then you keep going, and here is Roman numeral 3, grounds and subjects of compensatory damages. That's where we started focusing when we were looking at the overall subdivision of the major topic damages earlier. Okay, now once you are in the volume, you look up the hardbound volume as you would a hardbound legal encyclopedia or non-legal encyclopedia, and you look alphabetically on the spines till you see damages, and you find the volume about damages that either contains the key number you know you want to see, or you just pull the first volume that contains damages and you browse through the topic outline to see where you need to be looking in that topic. Well, once you have found the key number or key numbers from the title outline, topic outline, well, you just flip in the volume until you find that key number, and there will be headings indicating where a new key number begins. And under each key number in the digest, there will be headnotes from all of the cases in the jurisdiction covered by the digest. Here it'd be Texas cases, or Texas cases originating in federal court sitting in Texas. And these headnotes will be reorganized according to the type of court that issued the case. So under each of these subtopic key numbers in the digest, the headnotes that relate to that subtopic will be organized first by federal courts and then by state court opinions. Now, within the federal court opinions, if there are any U.S. Supreme Court opinions with that headnote, those go first. Then the U.S. Circuit Courts of Appeals opinions headnotes, if any, go next. And then the federal trial courts, the U.S. District Court opinions headnotes, if any, go next. Then the state court opinions, and again, it's in descending level of court again. So any state Supreme Court opinion headnotes will appear first, and then headnotes from state intermediate courts of appeals opinions will appear last. So let's look at what this digest would look like, the West Texas Digest, for key number 49 of the major topic damages. If you will recall, that was the key number that the very first headnote in Boyles versus Kerr related to. So here we have a simulated part of a page from the Texas Digest second. And I wanted to show you where what a heading looks like in it to show you where the headnotes relating to a particular key number will begin. And so here in red, we have the heading. It'll have a key symbol and then 49. And that means, okay, all the headnotes that are following now will relate to key number 49. And then the headnotes begin. So you scroll down the headnotes, you browse them because they'll be from different cases, and notice that each headnote underneath it, and by the way, by the time you get to the digest, the better term is really abstract, because these are no longer, we're not looking at them at the head of a particular case, we're looking at them reorganized and compiled together. So probably the better term would be to call them abstracts instead of headnotes. But regardless, each abstract or headnote listed here has at its bottom the name of the case and the citation where you can find it. So if you kept looking under key number 49, finally you would see here the headnote word for word that is the headnote number 1 from Boyles versus Kerr. And each of these headnotes or abstracts begins in boldface with the identity of the court that issued it. Here, Tex means Texas Supreme Court, and the year of the decision. So this is the same language that was in headnote number 1 at the head of the Boyles opinion, but it's just now been collected with headnotes from other cases relevant to Texas that treat the same subtopic. Now let's look at head note number 51. Remember, that was another head note subtopic from Boyles versus Kerr. So here you would just try to find the heading for key symbol 51. And here we found it. Now notice that there are what is called library references right under this heading. Uh, Occasionally in the digest, West will suggest another West published resource on the particular subtopic. And here CJS refers to the National Legal Encyclopedia published by West called Corpus Juris Secundum. And it provides you with the topics of that legal encyclopedia and their respective section numbers that West editors feel are relevant to this subtopic. And so they've given as a courtesy and to give you a additional resources if you need them on that point of law. And if you kept looking under key number 51, scanning the abstracts or head notes, you would finally come to the same head note from Boyles versus Kerr. Bystander may recover emotional distress damages suffered as a result of witnessing serious or fatal accident. So again, you will see the same head note that we saw in the Boyles case, along with head notes from other opinions that have addressed the same subtopic. Okay, now hardbound digest volumes obviously have to be updated because courts are always coming out with new opinions all the time. So the hardbound digest volumes are updated with paper pocket parts. And a pocket part is simply usually a newsprint pamphlet that will contain additional abstracts or head notes from new cases, and again, organized in the same way that the hardbound volume is. And that pocket part will slip into an opening in the very back cover of each volume that it relates to. And so we call those the pocket parts. So you will always want to check if you're doing research in the hardback digests, always check the pocket part in the back. Now, sometimes the pocket part may become so big it won't fit back there. And so West Thomson Reuters will then replace it with a cumulative paperback freestanding pamphlet that will be placed right alongside the hardback book instead of being inserted in the back of it. Now, these digests that we've been talking about and that we've been looking at in particular, this one has been a Texas digest. And that means it is relating to Texas law. But West and Thomson Reuters publish a lot of different types of digests that differ according to scope. And so they have everything from nationwide state and federal digests combined all the way down to in digests that only deal with a particular area of law. And so here is a rundown of the different types of digests that West and Thomson Reuters offer, from the broadest coverage to the narrowest. The broadest coverage is their digests series called the American Digest System. It's huge because it encompasses all state and federal head notes or abstracts from West published cases. It's huge. Now, a little more limited in scope, but still pretty big, are the key number digests. That's another type of digest, and the Texas Digest would be an example of that. There are lots of individual state digests that West publishes, and the Texas Digest is one of them. And this is a type of digest that West calls a key number digest. It's more limited in scope than the American. Now, there are also regional state digests. that will cover the abstracts from a particular regional state reporter, such as the Northeastern Reporter. There are also federal digests for federal law. And then the most narrow would be topical digests that have head notes or abstracts from published cases, but only those that relate to a particular area of law. So I want to show you in more detail how these digests are laid out at each of these levels. As I mentioned, the broadest of the West Digest system is the American Digest system, and it is nationwide. It includes head notes and abstracts from all state and federal published cases that appear in West's case reporters. Now, uh, the the American Digest system is updated every month with a volume called West's General Digest. And so this national coverage, a new volume comes out about every month because so many of these cases are coming out every day. And so it's called West General Digest. And then after a certain amount of time passes, West will compile and combine all those general digests into one comprehensive set. Now, West did go back to some of the earliest court opinions in our nation's history, and even before our nation's history. And the very first huge series in the American Digest system was called West's Century Digest. And that's a multi-volume digest containing the abstracts of cases decided from 1658 all the way to 1896. And it's still available. In fact, here's a picture of what the spines of that digest look like. So this first compilation of this national digest or American Digest system is the Century Digest. Now, after 1896, about every 10 years, with these general digests coming out every month, West would take those general digest updates, synthesize them into what West calls a decennial digest, meaning every 10 years. And a decennial digest is a multi-volume digest, again, published every 10 years, that collects all the abstracts from the monthly general digest volumes and therefore replaces those volumes so that they are now in a synthesized collection. And here is a picture of what the spines of the 11th decennial digest. You'll see these cover cases and abstracts from 1996 through 2001. Just an example of what they look like. Now, just for your information, here's a chart that illustrates the coverage of the Century Digest, which we've already seen is 1658 to 1896, and the decennial digests that have been issued all the way up covering cases through 2016. The first decennial digest covered abstracts from cases from 1897 to 1906. The second decennial covered abstracts from cases from 1907 through 1916, and so forth. And when we got into the late 70s and early 80s, because the courts were growing and more cases were being decided, West decided to issue these decennial digests in parts, and each part would cover about 5 years. And so the ninth decennial digest has part 1, which covers 1976 through 1981, and then part 2 of the ninth decennial covers abstracts from cases decided from 1981 to 1986. And then you can see when we finally got into after the new millennium, Again, the number of cases coming out were so great that West decided to issue the 11th decennial in 3 parts and the 12th decennial in 3 parts. And the third part of the 12th decennial covers abstracts from cases decided between 2013 and 2016. So again, just remember a decennial digest is simply a synthesis and a replacement of all of the monthly volumes of the general digest that had been issued for the 10-year period that the decennial digest covers. And once you have a decennial digest, then it completely supersedes all those general digest monthly volumes that came out during that period. So if you're ever wanting to find abstracts in the book that for cases that were issued after the last decennial digest part was issued, then you would need to go to the general digest volumes that pick up where that last decennial digest left off. Okay, so that's the big one, the big national in scope digest. A smaller scoped series of digests, as I mentioned, are the key number digests. And these would include digests devoted to the law of a particular state, like Texas Digest. West has published these state digests for every state in the union except Delaware, Nevada, and Utah. And Texas Digest is one example. There are also regional state digests, as I mentioned, that West publishes, and they will cover the abstracts from all cases published in one of 4 of their regional reporters that West publishes. West's Atlantic Digest, Northwestern Digest, Pacific Digest, and Southeastern Digest. Those are the 4 regional reporters for which West has published a corresponding digest. There is no regional digest for the Southwestern Reporter, unfortunately. Now, there are also West digests that are devoted solely to federal law, and that would be the West's Federal Practice Digest. It has multiple series, such as the 4th and 5th series. It covers all published federal court cases, abstracts from them, including U.S. Supreme Court cases. There's also a digest that is exclusively dedicated to the headnotes or abstracts from U.S. Supreme Court cases, and that's the West's U.S. Supreme Court Digest. And finally, the narrowest type of digest that West publishes is topical. They have national coverage, but they only deal with abstracts relating to a particular area of law, such as the Federal Sentencing Guidelines Digest, the Bankruptcy Law Digest, the Annotated Patent Digest, the Military Justice Digest, the U.S. Federal Claims Digest, and the Education Law Digest. So that brings us to an end of our look at the system of digests and how they work. In part B of the lecture that will be separately recorded, we'll look at specifically how you use these digests in practice in both print and on Westlaw. So I thank you for listening.